All right, Jasmine. Don't be nervous, okay? It's gonna be fine.
Okay.
Thanks for coming. Honestly, I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
I think you're gonna have to talk a bit louder if we want to get good audio.
I am pretty soft-spoken, except when I get upset at someone. So
We don't want you to get upset.
I doubt that's
anybody.
gonna happen to you. So
Thanks. This is amazing. First of all, compared to the election back in February,
yes,
huge difference, right? The sun is out.
Just look at the weather. It's
Much nicer to be walking out, right?
it's perfect. Campaigns should always be done in this type of weather. First of all, it's safer.
Mhm.
In the winter, I have a beautiful riding, and we have a lot of like beautiful iron outdoor metal staircases.
Oh, yeah.
Loads of them.
Mm-hmm.
So those tend to get very, very slippery.
Of course.
And during the by-election, there were a lot of ice storms. On election day, there was an ice
Yeah, I
storm,
remember.
but there were several in between. So, there was always really thick coats of ice. So it was slippery. I was okay, but we had a volunteer who, fell a little hard.
Oh, yeah.
And I fell several times. I never got injured, but it was just always very funny because, I fell in very non-elegant ways. And my volunteers had fun making fun of me.
No footage of that anywhere, right?
There might be. There
okay.
might be me in a bank of snow looking up, saying, again, and then laughing it off and doing a snow angel.
That's right.
There's stuff like that.
You gotta make the best of every situation.
Those are in the private record.
Yeah. Let's just go back a little bit because we know each other for a while now. You were very much involved at a community level, very on a social level as well. I think we got to know each other at an event. Is it CJ Pack? Was that where we met at the action party?
It was the first time we met was at the CJ Pack action party at Marché Bon Secours in 2014.
Wow.
And I remember that specifically because that day I was still a student. I was probably just starting off in law school. And I put it in my mind that it was very important to network early.
Yeah.
I had seen videos about the importance of your network.
Mm-hmm.
And I told myself, well, you know what? I'm going to go to this big networking event. I met you, and I met a gentleman named Larry that day. And every time I see him to this day, I tell him this story, and he's so bored of it because I tell him all the time. And I tell him, yep, it was 2014 action party, blah, blah, blah. Because I met someone who, Larry, who introduced me to a group of people. I told him my interests. I'm like, I'm studying law, but I want to enter different fields. I want to learn a little bit about finance, about this and that. Do you know about networking groups in different industries? And he's like, well, I was part of a finance committee. I don't know if I should say the name, but it was a networking events for people in the finance industry in Montreal. I said, well, if they have an upcoming event, I'd like to go. He gave me the address. He told me where to go. And there I met more people. And at each event, I would find someone that would open a new door for me. And believe it or not, that domino effect, I think that's probably how I'm in politics today. It's one person introducing me to another person, giving me an opportunity and another opportunity, and it all amounted to this. So,
but aside from all these interests that you had and all these networking events that you went to and all these people that you met, had you ever been involved like directly in politics to have done like really on the ground partisan politics?
Directly, well, it happened gradually.
Mm-hmm.
So I had started with communities. I wanted to tie two communities together. So I had started a group called the Hellenic Jewish Partnership.
Yes.
I'm of the Jewish Greek community, and I have a lot of friends in the Jewish community. And I'm like, you know what? There are so many similarities. When I was having invited for a Shabbat supper, and I was listening to the conversation around the kitchen table, I'm like, I feel like I'm right at home. I'm home, exactly. And, I knew that, because I was in law and I had friends from all over, young adults like me, we have this pleasure of growing up in a multicultural world. every classroom right now is filled with people of every community. You can travel in your own classroom.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're invited to birthday parties and this and that. And you get to try all different cuisines just, before you're even an adult. So I'm like, you know what, this is great. But I don't know if my parents' generation is the same. So let's bring those two communities together. Let's turn that into Park Avenue. Park Avenue is famous for having the Greek and Jewish community working together. So I started with that, and I think that was a lot of work on the ground. But then, more concretely with law, I ended up getting an internship with the U.S. Department of State in public affairs and foreign commercial service. So I guess you can call it political, although the Department of State is apolitical.
Yeah, exactly.
There are career diplomats who will work through a Republican administration, a Democrat administration. Yeah. They're there to serve, and they're not going to get too involved. So, but, I'm a Canadian girl with Greek roots and stuff like that. But I told myself, this is a very good experience.
So what made you, make that decision to say, okay, this is it, I'm going to run?
It was actually at the U.S. Department of State. Yeah. It was, it felt nice to serve a foreign government and to learn a lot, because God knows we work hard there and they're so efficient. So, what I learned there, it was a great school. And I told myself, okay, that's good. I learned a lot of things that could be useful for me and for my country. Mm-hmm. And, I didn't plan it, but I had an opportunity to meet Andrew Scheer and people of the Conservative Party while I was doing my internship. It was another networking event. It happened at McGill. It was, I think, in November 2017. And Andrew Scheer was in the room. And a lot of young students in their late teens and 20s were in that room. The room was full for a, leader of the opposition. Yeah. It's unusual. I was so surprised. And I introduced myself to the team there. And I told some of the people, you know what, right now I'm finishing an internship with the U.S. Department of State. It'll be done before the new year. And I'm looking for new opportunities. And I think it would be nice to serve my own government. Mm-hmm. So if you hear of any way that I can get involved, please think of me. A couple of weeks later, I got a phone call saying, well, you know what? Mr. Mulcair is no longer available. He's retired, this and that. There's a position open as a candidate. I didn't expect to get involved at such a high level, but I think I was ready. And I said, well, give me some time to think about it. I called my parents. I sat down and I really thought about it. And I said, well, you know what? You served a foreign government. This is your chance to help people, and you've always tried to do that socially. Exactly. I'm very much of a nurturer, a problem solver. My friends have a problem, they'll call me, Jazz. What can I do about this? Or what do you think? I'm like, okay, well, let's weigh the pros and the cons, and let's try to find the silver lining, this and that. I guess being in politics is a way to help on a larger scale. I haven't been elected yet, but I hope I could be, and I think I'd be able to take more concrete action than coffee shop conversations, telling people how to fix their issues.
Let's go back to the by-election 2019. Yeah, this was your first experience. So there's pros and cons, like you said, right? And the election that you're doing now, I mean, you got kind of like a practice run, right, in February. But let's go back to February. How was that experience for you? It was the first time running. You were a candidate. You're getting your feet wet. I'm sure there were many ups and downs, like is the case with anyone coming into politics for the first time. Give me your your perception of that first campaign.
Yeah, look. Well, this is my campaign.
Yeah,
so I see they
what
stuck
happened
little.
To your eyes? Yeah.
They gave me nice eyelashes. It was an amazing experience. To be honest, it was a very civil campaign. It was cold, sure, but I had a good team, and like you said, it was a good trial run. It was a by-election, so for me, running for the first time federally, I had the support of every other nominated candidate and all the conservative
That I guess
team.
is an advantage, right? Because they don't have to focus on all these other ridings running at the same time. There's only one by-election, and so you have all this support coming together.
Yeah, so candidates from all over came to help. They sent their teams, their volunteers. So it was always a full house at the campaign office, on the door to door. And for me, it, reassured me, and it showed me how solid the team is. There's a lot of solidarity within the team. And, 8 months later, I could take all that knowledge, that campaign school that you can only learn when you're really on the ground, and put into practice for the big campaign. So I think I'm extremely lucky to have been able to run in 2 federal elections in 8 months.
Yeah.
Some people wait 8 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So obviously you have a lot of experience on the ground. You did it in the beginning of the year, and you kind of just continued because you obviously knew there was an election coming this year as well. You've had the opportunity to meet a lot of people on the ground. Tell me a little bit about the feedback that you're getting. And just to remind everyone that's watching or listening, this is the riding of Outremont.
Yeah.
You have a link in Outremont. You were raised here, or?
Well, it's funny you're asking me this right now. See, now we're on the corner of Park and Saint Viator.
Yeah.
I went to high school about a block away, so I used to walk here all the time at lunchtime and get my little bagels at Saint Viator Bagel Shop.
Yeah.
There used to be a bakery that was called, I think, the Napolitan Bakery, and we could get 50 cents tomato pizzas.
Yeah.
We knew where to go. No, I went to elementary school in Outremont. I went to high school in Outremont. Later, I did a little bit of University of Montreal courses here. Also, there was a startup incubator that was near Queen Mary in the riding. I just spent all my high school years, teen years, young adult years socializing. I mean, now there's this very famous place for the young Greek community.
Yeah, Mythos.
And, we went there several times. I mean, and it's...
By the way, that's great real estate for your poster, right there.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't planned out.
It's perfect. And I'm surprised you're the only one on that pole.
Oh, well...
So tell me a little bit about
I put that one up myself.
Oh, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about the feedback you're getting on the ground and that you've gotten throughout the whole year, because you've been pretty much active on the ground since January, or even maybe before end of last year.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit what the feeling on the ground is.
It's very positive, People are very kind and very open-minded in Outremont. Even if they might have a different political opinion, they will always express it respectfully, and it will always be, an interesting conversation at the doors.
Did that surprise you at all? Were you expecting the people's behavior to be different? Did you enter politics and say, "Oh my God, I'm gonna go knock on the door. What if they don't like me? What if they start yelling at me?" Was there any sentiment like that? Yeah.
You don't know what to expect. You knock on someone's door. You could be disturbing them at dinner time.
Yeah.
They could be in the middle of a phone conversation. They could be, talking to their kids or figuring something out with their spouse.
Yeah.
You're intruding into people's
Into their
privacy,
space,
into their space. And to see that the reaction is so welcome, it's like, yes, we know there's an election. Thank you for coming. I get a lot of thank you for coming, So you might be entering people's space, but at the same time, they're happy you took the time to go see them. And I think it's the most effective way to get a good feel of your riding is taking the time to go door to door,
Yeah, meeting as many people as you can.
And it's pleasant. It's pleasant because whether you win or lose, every person you spoke to becomes a friend, a connection, or someone who wants to interact with you. A lot of people want to get in touch with you later. So for a young person like me, it's an incredible opportunity. I feel really, really lucky and blessed to be a candidate and to be able to do this.
Tell me a little bit about the platform. Is there anything that seems to resonate more than the beginning of the year, based on what you're proposing in your platform with your citizens now that you're meeting them? What seems to be the element or the elements in the platform that people seem to be liking?
Yeah, I think it's the affordability. People are really excited to be able to have a little bit more leeway at the end of the month. Some people are $200 short of being able to finish the month. So, lowering some taxes. I mean, removing taxes is on electricity and heating. I mean, heating is not a luxury here. People find that it will make a difference.
That seems to be a very popular one. Hey, I've been speaking to a lot of people as well, and that federal tax off the hydro bill seems to be quite popular, especially here in Quebec.
I mean, we live in a country that can be chilly, a couple of months out of the year, more than half.
Yeah.
And it's not a luxury.
Yeah.
If you don't heat your home, you'll get sick. If you don't heat your home, I mean, you remember when we had the ice storm,
Yeah.
there were people who, passed away because of carbon monoxide poisoning because they lit little fires at
Yeah.
home. Electricity is expensive. The cost of life is expensive, so we want to give more leeway to young families, to elderly people,
Mm-hmm.
and, people's pocketbook, they feel it. They feel it when they're tight.
What
And
else? What else do you think that people are resonating well with?
I think that the tax credit for renovating homes,
Mhm.
for green homes, is a really popular one, especially in this riding. I hear that a lot because, it's beautiful homes with a historic facade, but
Mhm.
sometimes the inside can, be a little
Outdated.
outdated, and people really think that would be great because it's expensive to renovate. I know I've helped my dad fix a couple of things here and
Mhm.
there, and it takes time.
For sure.
And it takes money, but when you have an incentive, $3,800 is a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
You can replace several things and
Mhm.
make them more economically friendly and environmentally friendly.
It's funny that you mentioned the environment. Let's talk a little bit about the environment. This campaign, I felt personally that it has sensitized the people a lot more on environmental issues. There was a huge march a couple of weeks ago in Montreal that pretty much got everyone's heads turned towards us. Tell me a little bit about the environment platform, the environment elements in your platform, and how that is resonating, because it seems to me that there's not much on the environment from the conservative platform, unless I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well, we have a website dedicated 100% to the environmental plan in almost 60 points.
Mhm.
It's called unvraiplan.ca or arealplan.ca, and you can see the entire platform point by point on all the things we want to do. And it's a long list, but the gist of it is to solve the problem at the source.
Mhm.
So, a carbon tax, we don't believe is the best way. We rather stop emissions at the source by investing in green tech and putting the emphasis on innovation. And that allows us to be even more proficient in our green technologies and exporting those green technologies abroad, where countries that still produce big emissions because they burn coal, this and that, can benefit from our technology. We can sell it abroad and take the environmental fight global. And that's the real big picture.
Does your message on the environment come across to the people that you meet? I mean, let's not forget. I mean, it was the Harper administration that kind of left the Kyoto plan, the Kyoto Protocol, that was specifically on the reduction of gas emissions. How are people looking at the conservative platform and giving it perhaps the credibility that it deserves?
I feel like, there's always a bit of a stigma when people think of the conservatives. They think as we're the big bad guys that are not environmentally friendly. But, the Kyoto Protocol didn't apply to big emitters like the United States and China. And this time around, it's kind of, we're pushing the message as much as we can. We have a website with all our plan. The media also has to give us a help to boost our message, but at the doors, that's my job.
Mm-hmm.
I inform people. I tell them, well, you may not be aware of this website. Here it is. Take the time, look it up. Here are a few links to videos on the things we want to do. Inform yourself as much as you can before you make a decision. And all the candidates, that's our job. We're not elected yet, so we're missionaries. We're going around and we're trying to pass our positive message across. And that's what makes it interesting at the door. It's like, you guys are, anti-environment. You're the big bad guys. Well, no, this is what we want to do. You guys want to give us credits for the, to renovate our home. You guys want to bring back the tax credit for public transport. That's great. You guys want to do this and that. And people are like, you know what? I apologize. I didn't know. You know what? I'm going to go home and do my homework.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the time.
There's a lot of mixed emotions also about the what's it called? The green corridor, the
energy corridor.
The energy corridor. and specifically with Quebec, who seems to be very protective on their jurisdiction. And a lot of people are wondering, what is it? How is it going to work? And where is it going to pass? And should it pass from here? And should Quebec allow the federal government to tell us what to do with our territory?
Well, the thought behind the energy corridor is to be energetically self-sufficient in a safe way. We all remember what happened in Lac Mégantic. I don't want to use that and capitalize on that, but when you take a highly flammable and explosive fluid and you put it in motion, you increase risks of catastrophes such as that. Or when it's, on a huge ship, if anything were to happen to that ship, unrefined oil floating on water, we know it doesn't mix and it causes irreparable environmental damage. So the safest way to contain a liquid like that is in a pipeline, and we believe that having our own instead of bringing it from here and there would be economically friendly and environmentally friendly, because something crossing the Atlantic, and if something were to happen, it's a problem. And also we know that Canadian oil is ethically sourced, and we're probably some of the top in carbon capture, and our standards are extremely high. In other countries that we import oil from, the standards are not that high in terms of the way it's produced and in terms of other local issues on how they treat people. And
I'm going to be honest with you, because I believe that we should be able to get our resources to market. And I was all for the whole pipeline purchase in the west, in Western Canada, but we see that it's been taking I don't know how many years in order for even that to go through, and it's just from one province to another, right, from Alberta to BC, and it just keeps delaying this whole process. There's court hearings and it's been challenged. How confident are you that you're going to be able to do something like that across the country from coast to coast?
I mean, I think it would be the best thing for Canada. Now, I'm not an expert on petroleum and timelines, but I think it would be good for us.
Let's talk a little bit, because right before we went live, we ran into an individual and we started talking politics like normal. I mean, it's like, they see you on the street, they recognize you're a Canadian, they just open up their heart.
It's nice. I like it.
And the whole issue with the public finances came up, where the Liberals were promising a balanced budget by the end of their mandate, and finally we're here with a $70 billion deficit, and we're looking at the campaign that they want to put forth and the promises that they want to deliver for the next 4 years, and we find out that there's another $20 billion per year that will be indebted, totaling another $80 billion at the end of potentially a majority mandate that they want. Say, for example, that you guys make it through and you become the government. You're going to have a $70 billion deficit to make up for it. How do we balance our books? Because I think the Conservatives said that you're going to balance the book in 5 years, I think?
Yeah, so,
Because the question that everyone is thinking is,
how?
We've had a government that gave us everything. Are you going to be the government that takes everything away?
No. As a matter of fact, there are social programs and health programs. The investment on that will keep increasing. It's very hard to have strong social programs if you don't have a strong economy. So step one is to repatriate some money. I don't know the entire platform, but Andrew Scheer announced that 25% of the money that's going abroad will come back to Canada, and money that is given to countries that are doing fairly well economically, we're going to bring that back to help the Canadian pocketbook. That's one thing. And so, if you want to have strong social programs, you can't compromise the future of the young generation, having them foot the bill.
You're confident that we're going to be able to maintain these programs, but just creating more revenue, or going to get additional revenue streams, we'll be able to finance them?
I think so. I have complete confidence in Andrew Scheer's plan.
let's talk about something else that just recently became a quote unquote issue, and that's the surprise rise of the Bloc Québécois, much to the surprise of both the Conservatives and the Liberals, who were counting on making gains in Quebec, one in order to maintain their majority, and in your case with the Conservative Party to make government. Suddenly, we're 2 weeks into now almost a week, but it's been going on for an additional week. So let's say 2 weeks in total, we've seen this surprising rise of the Bloc Québécois. They seem to have come out of nowhere. That first francophone, the first French debate, Yves-François Blanchet did spectacularly well. And he seems to be going after all those ridings that the NDP back in 2011 had taken away from the Bloc. How do you see that evolving in Quebec? What do you think the strategy is in order to make sure that the Conservatives penetrate certain ridings in Quebec?
Well, the first thing I want to bring to your attention is in the English debate, Mr. Blanchet said himself, it's unlikely I'll be prime minister.
But everybody knows that.
Everyone knows that. I think that a vote for the Bloc is not really going to help people who would really like the Bloc's platform, because it's only the Conservative Party that's more likely to be elected and that could actually do tangible things. Like, we want to have the, one form for the income taxes. Mm-hmm. We want to have a minister for Quebec. Oh, this guy's going to cut us off. For Quebec industry. We really want to put Quebec to the forefront, but a vote for the Bloc won't do that. Mm-hmm. The only way to really have a team that's working hard on the ground and that can bring concrete results is by voting for the Conservative Party. Mm-hmm. Now, don't get me wrong, Monsieur Blanchet is a great orator. I like hearing what he has to say, but I just don't think it's strategic for a voter to make that choice.
Well, see, look, the voter that is perhaps uncertain right now, he's probably looking at these things. But what Yves-François Blanchet did, he kind of woke up that separatist sentiment in the Quebec population, that brought the Bloc to opposition in the late 90s, early 2000s, right? And I know Yves-François Blanchet because when we got in 2000, I'm not sure if it was in Quebec in 2007, he may have come in 2008. We saw him in opposition, and then we saw him while he was Minister of Environment. When we were in opposition in 2012, he is an exceptional parliamentarian. He is very eloquent. Mm-hmm. And personally, I had no doubt that this guy would be able to revive the Bloc Québécois. I had no idea that it would reach this level over here. And I know because, I know a lot of people, both at the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party, who strategically were hoping on gaining certain ground in Quebec in order to gain some seats and make their way into government. And I feel that both the Liberal and the Conservative parties are kind of in panic mode right now.
It's an interesting time.
It's the final stretch, and suddenly you have the Bloc Québécois that rose from nowhere, and they're number one in Quebec, number one in the Francophone vote, and there's all these analysts that are projecting them to go as far as 30 seats in Quebec, which is huge.
I mean, the only polls I really worry about is what's going to happen on the 21st of October. But we've had nice surprises, like Monsieur Martel in Saguenay. Mm-hmm. He succeeded in a very Bloc area. I mean, we're working really hard, and I think people are starting to realize that voting for the Conservative Party could be the right option for them. Mm-hmm. That's the message I'm getting at the door. I've spoken to people who tend to vote Bloc or tend to vote Liberal, and there's a lot of disgruntled Liberals, and there's a lot of people that believe that maybe voting for the Bloc is no longer a good option, mm-hmm. and they're reconsidering their vote. So my job is to just keep working hard and bringing forward our positive message and seeing what happens on the 21st.
So there's one last debate. It's tonight, and it's a French debate.
Yeah.
So we saw what happened after the first French debate, where arguably Andrew Scheer didn't come out that strong from that, and inversely we had Yves-François Blanchet that jumped on this huge springboard.
Andrew Scheer did great.
You think he did good?
I think his French is really good.
I'm not talking about his French. I think everyone did well with their French, whether it's their first language or not. But it just felt that within the first couple of minutes, he took a couple uppercuts. I think he did well considerably, to finish off that debate. Mm-hmm. But those first kind of couple minutes there, where especially with the question on abortion rights. It had him kind of destabilized for a good 30, 40 minutes. I agree with you that he bounced back and he did okay until the end of the campaign. But what I'm trying to say is that first French debate really is what spurred the Bloc Québécois and François Blanchet. Now we have the second French debate. What should we expect? What do you think Andrew Scheer should go into this campaign? Like, what kind of mindset do you think he should go into this with?
You mean into watching the debate tonight?
Into the debate tonight.
I think he's cool.
Go ahead.
I think
almost ran over one of your electors here.
Please don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the debate. I think he's going to do incredibly well. I love watching Andrew Scheer debate. I love the interviews he gives. I think he's so poised and he doesn't cut people off. He has a good character. He's calm and collected and he delivers the message with respect.
Mm-hmm.
It's a French debate, so I got to also see the Tout le monde en parle episode. I think he did very well, and I'm excited to watch him tonight. I think we'll be very pleasantly surprised, and I think everyone should tune in.
I think it's going to be interesting because it's the last one, so every leader is coming with their gloves on, and there's no room for failure, right, in this debate.
We should watch it together. How about that? I mean, we can do live commentary.
Well, that would be
It'd be so much fun.
It would be great. All right, lastly, we're going to close it up. I know you're very busy. A lot of people are watching.
I think you're just saying that because we're about to pass Saint Viateur Bagel and you're really hungry.
Is it them that celebrated their 100 years or it's the other one on Fairmont? It's Fairmont, eh?
So what I like to do, and I've been inspired by a Yiddish comedian, is to go here to Saint Viateur Bagel, get a warm bagel, and then by the time you're done eating it, you start walking up the street, you end up at Fairmont Bagel.
You went to the other bagel shop.
And then you can get another one. And, I think this is a mystery we'll never solve in Outremont is which bagel is better. You just got to keep doing that walk back and forth.
And you just keep yourself satisfied with whichever is better. You
That's
really don't care.
It's one of those mysteries we can never solve, and we don't win at solving it because...
All right, let's close it up. Tell a couple words you want to tell your electors why they should vote for you, why they should trust the Conservative platform, just so we can close it up.
Well, the Conservative platform is a platform that will allow people to get ahead. And, economic times aren't the best. It's tough for people to make it at the end of the month. We want to bring more flexibility to the people here. We've got a lot of young families that worry about kids' education. They worry about their own finances. We have a lot of young moms who are getting taxed on their maternity leave. We want to get rid of that. We want to make sure people have more flexibility by cutting some taxes across. Now, why I think people should vote Conservative? I think it's the right choice for Canada moving forward. And what I want to tell my electors is take the time to read the platforms. The media, will give you information, of course, but it's not their job to feed you all the information. So do your research and make a choice based on facts that you've researched, that you'll be proud of your choice. And you'll have made a choice that's not based on any bias or things you hear, but on the research you made, so you can find out what's right for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure.
You have about a week left, a little over a week left. It's your final stretch.
Yeah.
And you're lucky because we have amazing weather, so you'll be able to take advantage of it fully. And I'll be watching very closely. Thanks so much, Jasmine.
With pleasure.